Boy, there's not that much going on, so I thought I'd do something to wet your Lucy Letby whistle this week. Well, last week, this is behind a paywall, so I'll go slowly, or maybe someone can put a link to a clean link to it. The Daily Mail done an article about an Australian case, and it was quite an interesting article about Kathleen Folbig, who was recently exonerated, and as far as I can tell, it was basically the Australian version of like Sally Clark, where her children had, her babies had died, and it turned out to be natural causes. Now, disclaimer, I don't actually know an awful lot about this case. I only know that the courts reversed and exonerated her. Basically the story is about the notes. And I actually think it was a pretty unfortunate title that they put, I dare you to insist. I think that just winds people up the wrong way. But what was interesting about this is the comment section, because you can have a little glimpse as to what you can look forward to when Lucy Letby is exonerated. What you can look forward to is people saying this is the best rated 50 upvotes. Folbig is guilty. So there's still, even though this was it Kathleen Folbig has been exonerated, most people still think she's guilty. So that's what we can look forward to with Lucy Letby. So what I wanted to do, I'm just gonna hit home, keep pounding on this Baby L case. A little bit of a repeat. And actually, on one of the videos, I sort of mumbled a point, and I just want to stress it a bit more. So somebody sent me actually the full prosecution closing speech, because the one I was looking at before was a summary. So I've got the full file of the closing speech. So I'm just going to read through a couple of things about it. So my main point that I was trying to hit home was the prosecution had said that the dosage on Baby L was double that of Baby F from 8 months earlier. However, I think they got that wrong, and I've checked whether this got challenged. The defence didn't challenge it, because the defence were concentrating on challenging the actual insulin results, as in whether or not that they stand at all. I don't think they were bothered about what order the prosecution was saying the poisoning's happening, because they were saying there were no poisonings, which is right. I mean, they're both right, but nobody had challenged what the prosecution had said, and the judge's summing up just didn't mention. Basically, what the prosecution was saying is that Baby F was poisoned, and then she doubled the dose to Baby L, but they've got that wrong, but that's sort of been given. That's just been taken as a given, and of course, if it were the other way round, it wouldn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense, and it is the other way round. But I've got a couple of more things that cognitive dissonance. So here we go. She, the cat's mother, also told the police and knew at the time of these events she did not know about C-peptide. Therefore, if you are sure that it was she who poisoned the bag or the bags of TPN, we suggest that you would have little difficulty in concluding that she intended to kill baby F, the first baby. And you will not forget, not least because I won't let you forget, that by the time baby L was poisoned, the level of insulin in baby L's blood was double what it was in baby F's. So the poisoner had failed to kill baby F, and 7 months later, by the time we get to baby L, the level of insulin in the blood is twice that it was for baby F. That tells you a lot about intention, doesn't it? So that's the exact thing that I was disputing. And just want to hit home that Letby didn't know about C-peptide. Now then, you'll remember quite a lot from Dr. Milan about the quality assured procedures at the lab at the Royal Liverpool University Hospital, and that the results of her in her lab's blood analysis were reliable. You will remember that in evidence, Lucy Letby herself appeared to accept that there was insulin in baby F's TPN bags. I love that word. She appeared to accept it. It just covers, well, she appeared. Did she though? She appeared to. So the prosecution was talking about the reliability of these results, and actually they go into a bit of detail. I can't remember if I highlighted it or not, talking about how the lab calibrate the results every day, and nowhere is it discussed in the prosecution's closing speech about what the error margin is, the 2% error margin, which, by the way, is extremely important. This is the prosecution. There were only three people who were working both shifts. Valerie Thomas, and the second person is Belinda Williamson. I think she then becomes Belinda Simcock. I'm assuming she gets married. Congratulations. And the third, Lucy Letby. Only three people that were on for both shifts. I mean, that's quite a lot. I mean, if you think about it, consider that's a lot for there to be three people. But let's not forget that they didn't actually need to be on shift, did they? Because for baby F, if they're poisoning the bags, they could have done it. It could, they didn't need to be on shift, did they? I don't know whether they worked out how long before, could they have, how fresh the bags were. If I presume they're going to be in storage for, I don't know, at least a week, aren't they? A week beforehand, before they get used. I don't know. maybe not a week, but at least a day, I'd say. And here he says again, baby L poisoned with insulin like baby F and baby L, as we will see, got more than one bag of poison in his case, dextrose. So what the prosecution is going on about now is baby F got 2 bags, possibly 3 bags I think 2 bags, they were saying were poisoned. The bespoke bag and the non-bespoke bag. And what they're going to say here, and we're going to go into it in a sec, is that Baby L also required 2 bags, according to the blood test. That what the prosecution was saying is 2 bags, possibly 3 bags. And here he says that tiny. I'm sure you remember it. It's probably difficult to see from there. He's showing the prosecution a picture of the fridge, I think. That tiny vial of insulin. Just pointing out again how small a volume it is. Mr. Allen showed you exactly how the supposed tamper-proof port can be bypassed. So that's interesting. These bags are tamper-proof, but they've come up with a way of how you could get past the tamper-proof, but injecting it into, like, there's a port on the top of these TPM bags, and they say it can be opened and resealed. So not very tamper-proof. Anyone who wanted to could inject about 0.6 of 1 milliliter of insulin into that bag. Again, so there's a tiny vial of insulin, and the poisoner is only injecting a tiny bit, just because. Why not a large amount? Now, here's something. Well, we're going to talk about a couple of things. Oh yeah, I'll just carry on. And somebody did precisely that. That tiny quantity of insulin, three tinies, teeny Tom and tiny, had potentially fatal consequences. It wasn't fatal, but potentially. So, on top of the fact, well, let's just say you've got to. I was saying, why only put a tiny amount in? And someone arguing might say, I'm just trying to get my mind into the guilters, fascinating as they are. Why is she only put in a tiny bit? Why not just, ram it with loads of insulin? Why only a tiny bit? Because she knows she's not going to get caught. She didn't know anything about C-peptide or whatever. It's a clear liquid, the perfect crime or whatever. And I mean, she'd already gotten away with it once with baby F. No one picked up on it, right? Although the baby survived. So someone might be arguing, well, maybe she just wanted the baby to collapse or something and not outright die, and she, were playing maybe, Munchausen's by proxy, or she liked the drama, because at one point the prosecution was saying, alleged that she liked the drama and wanted her boyfriend Dr. A to come over. So she was just, well, firstly, that actually isn't what the prosecution was saying, because they went for full-on attempted murder. Not that would be manslaughter or something, death, misadventure. Or it would be an accidental death if you're trying to just inject a baby just to cause some alarms to go off and cause a bit of drama. Firstly, that's not what the prosecution is saying. They're saying she tried to murder. Secondly, the other point is, if she liked the drama, liked the attention or whatever, well, let's go back to baby F. She wasn't. Let's say where she apparently put in the insulin into the bags to set up this death so that the next nurse that came along was plugging in the TPM bag to the baby, and the baby collapses and dies. Well, hold on a minute. Letby's gone home. She's going to miss all this drama that she's caused. So again, that doesn't make sense either. And then, this is the thing, like, okay, you don't need to, the prosecution, they don't need to find any motive. And you sort of think, okay, yeah, because, I mean, we saw in the USA recently that monster black bloke on the train just stabbed that Ukrainian girl who was sat in front of him, and it's like, what's the motive? And it's like, okay, yeah, maybe you don't need a motive if you're mental, yeah, but for a sane person to do it, a good person, to someone who's been working at a hospital doing charity work and things for years, yes, they do need a motive. I mean, even if she had a motive of £1 million, she wouldn't do it. Like the idea that you don't need a motive, yeah, that's true for mental people. Okay. Oh, this is. I might even insert a clip here. I'll do it at the end. And he told you that they talk about. I think it's talking about Evans here. And he told you that the case of Baby F was referred to him because that of his brother Baby E was suspicious. Now, I've highlighted this because the prosecutions just admitted themselves that there was literally nothing about these insulin cases that was suspicious. I mean, the only thing that was remotely suspicious is one of them was the brother of Baby E, as if that makes a difference. So, like, it's not like they were investigating the care of these two babies under Lucy Letby, and then when they looked into it, it emerged that the insulin results on them had something fishy. Because I was trying to argue this point with one of the trolls when I was saying about, look, there's a 2% error margin, and one of the trolls was doing the math wrong and was saying, oh, what are the chances that both of these two babies would have been one of those 2% ones? And I'm going like, oh my god. And I genuinely don't think he understood that the babies weren't under suspicion. They're only suspicious because they were part of this 2%. It weren't like they were under suspicion and then they done a check of the blood, and then it turned out to be one of these 2%. I think you get the gist of that. Right. So now I've changed the colour here. The prosecution is talking about baby F, the first baby. This was a life-threatening situation for Baby F. The stock bag, do you remember? There was a replacement of the bag at about midday that day, and the stock bag had about the same amount of insulin in it. That was connected to baby F after Lucy Letby had gone off duty. She'd have gone off at whatever time it was, 8:30, whenever it was she would have left, and that stock bag was undoubtedly hung at about midday. So the prosecution's reminding you that the first time there was an insulin poisoning, Letby had apparently rigged this stock bag of insulin for the next nurse to pick up. Now this gets interesting because it's going to be connected to that child at a time when the poisoner isn't there. So again, I'm talking about baby F. He's talking about. It was also to divert suspicion onto somebody else and deflect suspicion from Lucy Letby. So this was the baby F the first time, 7 months ago. So the prosecution's detailed all of this that Letby apparently done. And he said that it was legitimate to infer from the insulin and C-peptide results from the blood sample that the level of contamination in both bags was about the same. For no reason, I don't know. She just liked to distribute the poison evenly. I don't know. So that tells us quite a lot as well, doesn't it? Does it? I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, what does it tell us? I don't know. It tells us that whoever poisoned baby F gave it some thought. Right, because they put the same amount into the replacement bag as well that might have been used. I don't know what that means. So what does that mean? Does that mean that she put a fatal dose into the original bag and a fatal dose into the second bag? And so it had the baby had 2 or 3, this is baby F, the baby had 2 or 3 fatal doses and still survived. And here we go, baby F, who just happened to be the twin of the baby she had murdered the previous day. Some non-coincidental coincidences there. Okay, so we're back to baby L now. Myself and shift leader A. Davies. Oh, sorry, he's quoting here. Oh, I've got to talk about this. Okay, he's quoting a note in time at which Dr. Bomick prescribed dextrose and continues, quote, so he's quoting something that Lucy Letby wrote, I think. Myself and shift leader A. Davies have discussed this with Registrar Bomick as it doesn't follow the hyperglycemia pathway. You'll remember in context, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence of Arian Powell on April the 27th this year, when she said that Lucy Letby would not shirk to challenge a doctor if she thought a mistake had been made. Amy Davies didn't record this conversation, although Amy Davies did confirm that usually milk would be given as a first resort under the pathway, the hypoglycemia pathway. Nurse Davies said that the infusion therapy prescription sheet showed that she had checked what was being given to baby L, and in challenging Dr. Bomick and documenting it, we suggest that Lucy Letby was setting up an issue for baby L in the sense that she had identified an anomaly and had decided to use it to as a cover to attack baby L. Now this is a strange and it's quite a complex thing that the prosecution is trying to say here. Now normally I know why the prosecution has gone to this. Normally, in the notes for one of the babies, one of the that has died or collapsed, there's been several times where it's been noted either by Letby or by someone else that there's an ongoing problem, like to sort of set an underlying. There's an underlying issue with the baby, and so for normal babies, for a lot of the babies in the trial, whenever Letby had written something like that, the prosecution was saying, "Oh, she's setting up she's preparing the baby to have this collapse or something." She'd written that it desaturated as a cover for this or that, but when the prosecution does it for this baby, like, the thing is, the prosecution's so used to doing that for all of the babies. This baby L, never collapses or anything. There's never anything wrong with it. And so I think it's just the prosecution's just shot himself in the foot, saying that she's set up the baby for an attack, but nothing actually. The baby never collapses or anything. They're just so, the prosecution's so used to saying that Letby had forged the medical records or was lying about this or that, when actually nothing ever happened. There is no. They never document an attack on baby L. All that we've got are these high insulin readings. And like it actually took me a while to understand what that paragraph was about and what was going on there and what the prosecution was trying to say. Okay, here we go. Now, the prosecution goes on to describe how that means Lucy Letby would have been alone with baby L in nursery 1 at that time. And if you put that together, we suggest, with the evidence of Professor Hindmarsh, who said there would be about 9:30 that somebody would put insulin into baby L's dextrose bag. I'll come back up to that in a bit. Talked about the levels of C-peptide. Here we go again. You can discount as a possibility that the lab results are in any way misleading. So the prosecution is basically saying the lab results are 100% good. As I've already said, the amount of insulin in baby L's blood was more than double what we had found in baby F's. And that, we suggest, speaks volumes, does it? Do we? Baby F had survived. So the poisoner, Lucy Letby, upped the dose for baby L, did she? As I've said before, what clearer evidence of an intention to kill could you have? Indeed. The next question then, ladies and gentlemen, is when did the insulin go into the bag? Well, we say it was put into the bag after it was hung. This is baby L we're talking about, the second baby. And this is one of the reasons why it was a targeted attack. What we see above, what we see above it is the previous bag that was hung the previous day at midday. Do you see that at the top? right at the top, signed and co-signed by Lucy Letby and Nurse Davies. Okay, so what I'm pointing out here is that Letby has co-signed the bags, that she's hung the bags. Okay. Sorry, it's a bit all over the place, the prosecution. I'll come back to that in a sec. The first poisoning was done, talking about Baby L here, was done while the bag was actually hanging. And then the prosecution goes on to talk about who was on shift, blah blah. It doesn't take much to infer that she must have also been the person that spiked the bag sometime after it was hung at 16:30. And the prosecution goes on to describe how it was definitely a lot of work into tracing who was on shift, where these bags were. Now, what the prosecution have said with Baby L that's different to Baby F is that Letby, they're claiming that Letby poisoned the bags whilst Letby was on shift. There's no, so this is all happening whilst she's on shift, poisoning of 1 or 2 bags, or 3, and on top of that, like I showed earlier, that she had signed and co-signed for the bags. So I've got to ask the question, if she had come up with this method of poisoning babies and she didn't have to be on shift, she's found a way for the next nurse who's on shift to be pointed out for the blame, like the prosecution told you, devious. Why then, for the next attack, is it so much worse where only Letby's on shift and she's signing for all the bags and co-signing for them with someone else, and it's only Letby on shift? Is she deliberately, so she's spiking the bags for someone else to hang up, for another nurse to hang up the first time, but the second time she's hanging them up and signing her own name on the poisoned insulin, on the poisoned bags? Is she framing herself? That's what the prosecution was saying. And this little one in blue I skipped over. It was just that it was just something minor that it just dug at me. They're just talking about times of things and what doctors have written about notes. Dr. Oku was pointed to that. He thought, didn't he, that 12 noon was a reference to the time when the blood sample was taken. So this is where the confusion arose. I'm dealing with the issue of the confusion. We say Dr. Oku cannot be right about that because the computerised time-stamped form proves that he ordered the test at 15:45. It's fine, okay. The doctor thought it was midday. It turned out to be 3 hours 45 minutes. It's nothing. The prosecution thinks it just corrects it. It's nothing. If Letby had been out by 3 hours and 45 minutes. Would anyone have let that slip? I'm just asking the question. I'm just asking the question. Now what did I... Oh, okay. So yeah, what did I skip over here? She knew Baby L had naturally occurring hypoglycemia because of her conversation with Dr. Bomick, which was recorded in the nursing notes, and therefore he was a perfect target, wasn't he? And she also by that stage introduced the spectre of a naturally occurring issue and a failure to deal with it in accordance with the pathway or the protocol. So this is what I was talking about before, about the prosecution alleging she's setting up a problem. But like I say, there never is any problem with Baby L. The spectre of it. I just think they need to tune into Sanity FM here. It's all backwards. Everything is backwards. None of it makes sense. And the coincidence about one of the babies who just happened to be the twin of the baby she had murdered the previous day.